Okay, I picked up this Chinese gearbox. It's a 40 horsepower bevel box, and paid $40 for it. They come new for $160, but we're gonna do a little trial and error. Right now, it's clockwise rotation, so it's, if you watch that key, when I turn it right, it's going left. So we're going to attempt to make this a reverse box. So we're going to take it apart, and inside there the gear will be on the wrong side, and I'll have to machine the keyway and move the gear from this side to that side, or that side to this side, whatever. We'll see when we open it up. We're going to make this a reverse gearbox, and then I'll be able to run the steering shaft like this for the Ratrod. So I'm going to take it apart now, and then get all bearings and everything off of it, and show you along the way to swap the gear in there. Alright, so I've taken the cover off, and now I can pull the gear out. You notice this is a straight ground gear shaft, but we need to reverse the gearbox. We're just going to set that down. So this gear that's on here, I need to take it and put it on this side of the shaft, and by doing that I'll have to modify this shaft. Once I get it apart, I'm going to take it apart the rest of the way. If we get that gear over here, then we'll have a reversed gearbox, and that means the input, when I turn it right, the output will go right, and we'll be able to make a steering shaft for the Ratrod real easy. I probably have to modify the grill a little bit, but once we get this done, we won't have a bunch of weird linkages and U-joints, and it'll be real sturdy. So we're going to get this part taken apart now. Alright, so I popped the other end cap out, and now these bearings, this bearing can come out, and so can the shaft and that other gear that we're going to swap direction on. I'll get it taken apart here. Alright, I've taken it all apart, and I've test fitted it with it being reversed now. So when this turns right, that'll turn right. So the shaft will go right. If I turn this right, this will go right. So instead of having the gear on that side, the gear will be on this side now. It'll be a reverse gearbox. So you can buy these for like $160. It's a Spinco 40 horsepower little bevel box. So what we're going to do now is, since I've test fitted and I found that that bearing basically is to the end of the shaft, and it gives us the correct shaft length on the other side. What we'll do is we'll stick that shaft up in the lathe, and we'll use a part off tool, and we'll make it for the, there was a C-clip that held it in place. So we'll make a cut in that shaft for this C-clip to go on here, and then we'll just measure the distance between the two C-clips, little clips they had in there before, and we'll come out on the lathe and we'll make the other one there, and we'll put this up between the center and the chuck. That way we can part it here and then move all the way down and part it again, whatever distance these were before. And then after that, we'll have to put it up in the middle and make the keyway for this gear. And then we'll have a reverse box. A couple machining steps here. Alright, so I put the bearing up there flush. I just use the blue magic marker, and that'll give me my first cut edge. And I took a cutoff tool here and made a little curl on the end there, and ground it to be the thickness for that part. So that C-clip. So we'll get this all up in the lathe, and we'll use the DRO digital readout to know what this distance is. And first we'll cut this one in there, and then use the DRO to come out whatever distance these are and whatever depth it is to cut the next one. And it'll probably be right in here somewhere, I'm guessing. And then once we do that, I'll be able to put it back. I need to do this keyway, but over here on the other side for the sprocket, or that gear, or whatever you want to call it. And then I can put it back together, and we'll have a reverse box. Alright, so we got it set up here in the lathe. I've used the DRO to make it's at 0 at its farthest depth. And I'm going to 0 it here and then run it out that distance. So I use the DRO to know how far to go out. And we're going to put these 2 new cuts in to switch the shaft in the gearbox. Then we're going to set it up in the middle and put the slot over here for that keyway. You know, the keyway for that, removing the gear from here to there to reverse the box. So I'm going to part this in with the big lathe, and then we'll take it over to the Bridgeport. Alright, so there's my 2 new circlips here and there. I just checked the depth on them on the DRO. But so that cut there and this cut over here will be my 2 new circlips. And now I'm ready to take it over there and put it in the lathe, or put it in the mill and put the keyway in. Alright, I use the DRO to find my length and width of that old keyway. I got my fancy $10 tool in here, and it goes down there and touches, and you just line up that little arrow, and we're in the center of this. Super easy. So now we're going to use, I took pictures of the distance on the DRO. We're going to put the tool in there, and we're going to cut a keyway, you know, going, 8-10,000 steep, pass after pass. I got a carbide tool here, and it's smaller than my old keyway. So what we're going to do is if we use the exact tool, it'll probably make a slot bigger than what we want. So we're going to make this, we're going to go smaller with the tool and work our way back and forth on this mill to get it to be the perfect width slot for that keyway. This, this thing's not going to be, steering. You turn half a wheel one way and half a wheel the other, so it's not going to be, doing the 3,000 RPM this gearbox would be able to do. But we're going to put it together as tight as we possibly can, get the keyway to fit in there tight and, just the right depth. And we're going to slap this box back together. Alright, I got the keyway cut in there. So we'll go put it back together after a little bit of deburring. Alright, I got her fitting in there nice and tight. The depth should be right. So she's stuck in there. It shouldn't be able to roll. So we'll go deburr these edges for these new places for the clip rings, and then we'll put it back together. Alright, I got all the parts cleaned up with brake clean. So we're going to put it back together. Alright, got this side all put together. The circlip and the spacer washers, and it's keyed onto that shaft. So now I'm going to slide it up in the box and get the other bearing and circlip on. Alright, I got it all back together. You can see it's not going to tear my seal up. And now, if I turn the steering wheel to the right, then that goes to the right. So you can picture another steering wheel down here. So if I turn this right, that goes right. If I turn it left. So it's doing really good. So if I turn left, it goes left. Turn right, it goes right. So you can picture, you know, steering wheel here. I turn it right, and it's gonna turn right like another. Picture another steering wheel here. Turn right. So we got us a really cheap reverse 90-degree gearbox. It's extra heavy duty. We can connect this to the, you know, the power steering or the power rack, and connect this side to straight into the firewall. We'll put U-joints in here and there, but we won't have. We can mount this real solid, and we won't have no weird, you know, bearing system set up. Alright, I'm pretty proud of this one. It seems like it's going to work. So I'll probably have to modify my grill shell, but you know, everything's ready to modify. But the old Dakota, see the gearbox comes straight up there, and I really don't want to roll it or change anything, because if I ever want to do any front end alignment or anything like that, it's all, I'm trying to keep the factory kind of stuff. So I can shove a U-joint up to this gearbox and then come off the gearbox, go straight to that firewall. So it'll make it a lot easier to make this steering. I stretched the frame so long. I really don't want a bunch of bearings in there, so this will let me just make this. I'll just make a really stiff mount out here, you know, like a 1/2-inch plate, and bolt it there with those 3/8 bolts. Alright, you like that kind of stuff, check back in.